All right, hello and welcome. And this time around, I want to talk about the right hand exercises, core exercises for developing facility with the right hand. It's pretty simple, really. They basically, as I see it at least, they're just a few exercises for the development of the finger coordination. Now, we're not talking about any extended techniques like snapping and popping and all of that. We're just talking right now just about basic pure tone development. So there are two basic exercises. One would be accent studies, and the other one would be string crossings. So let's kind of dive into this. So what we're practicing here is strict alternation. It's meaning once we play one finger, we play the other. And the basic combinations that I've found useful to consider are, of course, IM, standing for index middle. The opposite, MI, so being able to start off the index finger, start off the middle finger. That's what I want you to focus on for right now. Just those two. We're not talking about sweep picking, fan picking, whatever you want to call it. We're just talking right now just about developing the strict alternation technique and being able to do it eventually on all four strings. After that, you can get into using the anterior finger. I think it was called A, IA. And I found that's really powerful. So everything that you're doing here with IM and MI, you can then do with IA and AI. And then after that, you can get into triplet three-note patterns, which is all very interesting. I'm not going to talk about any of that right now in this video, but strictly just about MI and IM. So here we go with the basic idea of the accents. So I'm thinking about just a group of 16th notes. It's notated for my students. They have this file. It's just all the mathematical combinations, first of one accent per eighth notes, and then two. So let's get started. I'll do each one just twice. So let's stop there. So that was all the combinations of one note per eight, and obviously I did it on the D string. So what am I thinking about? A natural kind of rounded form of the hand, just like what we would do if we were with the bow. Not so much like what I might use if I'm walking or trying to play a groove or something like that. This is just really strictly about the separate fingers technique. What else? That the pull is kind of, it's a slingshot for sure. You're pulling toward the next string. Try to not collapse the fingers. You can get into that. It's a different sound and certainly plays games with angles, which can be really interesting. But I would go for essentially feeling the pull parallel with the surface of the instrument. You can even practice this stuff without the strap. I won't be able to hold up if I had it on my lap, my hands would just be like this. Ergonomically, it's a very natural, it's like playing the piano. So you might spend some of the time with these exercises having the instrument flat on your lap. I used to call that the coffee table years ago when I taught at DePaul. So it was just like a coffee table in front of you. And you can learn what a comfortable and relaxed position is with the arm and the wrist, so that the tendons are moving through the carpal tunnel into the fingers, feeling that connection, and you're not something like that. Okay, so now the next area then would be to have two accents per eight notes, and we start with the first and second eighth note, then the first and the third, and so forth. So I'll do these now. And similarly, twice each. Oh, and I think the other thing that I wanted to say is I'm really exaggerating the difference in the dynamic between the accented note and the basic volume of the other notes. And let's also talk a little bit about the nature of the sound with the pizzicato. So the opposite of something like drumming, for example, when you make an accent, the simplest way to get an accent is to put the stick higher but in the same amount of time. So the velocity, the extra motion of the stick, for example, results in a note that's a lot louder. You can demonstrate this just. You're going to lift your hand higher to do an accent. Well, with this, it's upside down because you have to get the note, you have to get the string, I should say, to the sounding point. And so the sounding point is going to be further. It's going to be a lot closer to the next string, farther from its resting point. So that means that you have to pull it that much faster. It might be too heady for some of you, but I think having that awareness will tend to make you just realize an accent's really nothing. You just got to pull the string faster. So here we go. Two per 8 notes. So that's that study. Oh, that's fun. I haven't done that in a while. I love how that feels. So you could then do it with the other combinations that I already talked about. But what I just did then, that was all going I am. So then you could go am. But let's move on to the second area. Now, of course, the D string is a user-friendly string. It's kind of in the middle. It's not too fat, obviously, to try to get the same sound on the other strings. You kind of get into what it feels like that E string. I don't know. If I'm a little closer to the bridge, I can feel. So basically, trying to keep the wrists straight, ergonomically, not so much that way. Also moving a little bit when find a groove for you. Mine, this is when I was young. I played really pretty curved like this because it was a certain piano teacher I had at the time, and maybe I'm a little tight, but just find something that's comfortable. But if you see yourself flopping around, that's probably not going to be as efficient. So the other order of business, after just having control over the dynamic range between loud and soft, the other order of business is getting to each one of the 4 strings. Or if you have more strings, I have a bass with 6 strings on it. That's really interesting. I love that. But 4 is plenty. So the idea here then, you start with the basic string crossing patterns that all my students have, and when we play on the double bass, what we do is we use the side of the hand, and we just get comfortable with moving to each string. Well, here we're using it a little differently. Obviously, what you know as a double bass player is going to come over to this when you're playing grooves and that. But again, we're just talking right now about the articulation, the finger control. So so the patterns are basically D, 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 G. Then the next one is D, D, G, D. Then the next one is D, G, D, D, and the next is G, D, 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 and they go from there. They're inverted. So there's I think there's 12 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll play all of them like twice. Actually 4 times is better. So that's the first set. If the ringing annoys you, feel free to dampen it. I kind of like it. The next is those same 4 backwards. basically it, other than just playing all on one string. So there's a sort of a lean into, you don't want to be, I used to try to do it with my fingers. I don't think that makes sense. I think it's better to. So that's basically it. If I did them backwards, I'm sorry, let me start at the beginning. See, I'm starting with M now instead of, so that's very good. You want to definitely do it both ways. You're almost there now. You can then skip strings. So if you were playing this instead of off the D and G string, now you went to the A and the G string. So that would be interesting. You would have. And that's hard. That's tricky. But one of the things that you're going to realize, and you'll know that when you do this on the double bass, is that about half of the patterns are natural and comfortable, and the other half are not. And that has to do with which finger you're starting on. So that it's good to practice it the wrong way, so to speak. But basically what I'm saying is if I'm playing the pattern A, G, it feels a little more natural to start on M, because I can reach up to it that way. It depends. I mean, for some electric players, they might say it feels natural the other way if you're going for something more like this. But me, coming from double bass, my tendency is to kind of go to that. So, you make your own decisions about that. So after that, what would come next? Well, there's all kinds of possibilities. Obviously, we don't have to be in 4/4. We could be in 3/4, 6/8, 9/8, 7, 5, 11, different things of that nature. But the general idea is you're teaching with the open strings what the right hand needs to do to get a full sound. And when you start to take this over to playing scales and finger studies and all that with the left hand, the sky's really the limit. But you'll find that you have a tremendous amount of technical improvement if you do this a little bit every day and kind of integrate this as part of your core sound. And it's good to just get away from the double bass every once in a while, I think. But if you were doing it on our main instrument, you would have the thumb up on the side of the fingerboard, kind of like Eddie Gomez up on the E string, and be working from the fingers. And then when you go to play the other way, the development of your fingertips, of your finger action, will then get integrated into your whole arm, full physical approach. So that's about it for what I wanted to say right now in this video. So I hope you find it helpful, and obviously let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time. Until then, have a great time practicing.